Just I know when you put it up, I put it up.
There you go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Grant Cameron, and I'm doing another interview today on my series on art and UFOs, UAPs, whatever you want to call them, the Force. And I've got Annette Williamson, who I've interviewed once before, but when I decided I wanted to do this art series, we got inundated with a bunch of artists from around the world who are experiencers. And I don't think it's an accident. So I basically decided we would do some panels, some interviews. And Annette has a more complex story. It wouldn't really fit on a panel because a panel, it's sort of like you've only got a few minutes. So Annette's art is more like mine. It's not like realistic art or, high-end art or whatever, but it probably has the best messaging that I've seen. Because I've gotten messages myself, I've gotten noetic downloads, and what Annette is getting is basically the same as me. So I'm very proud to link up with her. So let me take over the screen here. And how are you doing for everybody?
Yeah, I'm well, thank you. Yeah, we're all good here.
Beautiful. And so there's my screen. You can see my screen. I got the PowerPoint up.
Oh,
hang on, let's go.
Very nice.
Okay, so can you see that?
Yeah, can see
Good.
it.
And so I call it art with a message because I think yours is probably the best art in terms of them trying to get messages across. So let's basically start with the first one. Tell this little story in say 5 minutes or less, this whole story about how you got dragged into this. It wasn't you, it was somebody else, and you start interacting with these beings. So basically, for people that don't know your backstory, explain how you got into this.
Okay, I'll do it as quickly as I can.
Yeah.
A friend of mine one morning put up a picture of just one of these beings. It had a big head, small body, and she just had the words, "Humans, are you ready?" It was really out of character, so I gave her a call. And she said that her alien friends had been visiting her for a few days, and I was just gobsmacked. So I said, "Can I come round?" She said, "Yes." I went around that evening, they came, they start communicating with her, and then first of all, it was via her, only via her, because I didn't trust what they were saying at first. But anyway, I asked her, because I couldn't see them, and we did ask them why she could and I couldn't, and they said in Annette's contract, she wouldn't, some people can't take us in any form. It would freak them out, and that was true. I knew I wouldn't be able to take them. There's no way I could have seen them. And some people, I can, they just said, you can, she can't, but she's chose to experience us in this way through you and in other ways. Anyway, I asked her to draw a picture. And this was us sitting in her living room, and they came in, and literally from memory, she just drew it and sent it straight to me. So they never had any eyes or mouths or anything like that. They were a presence, and they said that they can take on any form to the person. They can come in many, many different ways. And in our experience, because our realities were joined together on this experience, so we've chosen to see them this way. Beautiful. And this is how they always came in three, and they always showed like that.
And just for people realize that this has been said by a number of experiencers, is that they can appear as whatever they want.
Yeah.
And you talked about this contract thing. Explain to people this idea of the soul contract that
well, it was the beings that brought it up, really. It wasn't us. When they were explaining what humans were, if you like, and they were saying that it's an experience, and they were trying to break that down. So they sort of said, it's going to come up in one of the pictures. They said, your energy, you come from us. So they definitely said we are connected to them. And they said that you're from energy, and then you need a form to be able to experience things like emotion, or to eat or sleep or touch or anything like that. You would need a form. So that's where the form came in. And so they said, and so you have a contract. And they said, because when they first appeared, they knew that me and Zoe, that's the other lady, were very different. And they sort of, because the first hour when they first started talking to the pair of us together, they were saying things about me to Zoe that she didn't know about, and things to me, you know, vice versa. And they sort of explained it like every human has their own contract here on earth. There's no, you're not one of the, you have coincidences where you come together to experience things, but you are all individual energies in a form. And they just said humans have got very fleshy. They remember them saying, and you've forgotten this, and that's why they're making their presence going to be known much more now.
And that's important, because I've heard that so many times, the same principle, and that's why I think your stuff is so important, that it just it rings a bell. Everything that you say that they're telling you is what I've experienced from other experiencers. This is basically the message. Did you do art? Did you do drawing before? And let's bring up the fact that another pattern is that a lot of people who are in this art thing or UFO thing are dyslexic. You're dyslexic, right?
Right, both Zoe and I am dyslexic. As I said, Zoe sees them, so she drew this picture, and she's very artistic as well. But yeah, I did art at school, but I didn't pursue art after school. I mean, I did normal exams at school, but it wasn't something I pursued. I went into hairdressing, so I suppose that is a form of art.
Yeah.
And with the dyslexia, yes, and other labeled mental health that we call mental health, or anything, dyspraxia, epilepsy, all those conditions, are being said that, in fact, they got quite, not annoyed, well, a little bit annoyed. I took it as sort of annoyed, because they sort of went, well, who are you humans to have an opinion on how someone has chosen to live their reality in this illusion, the same way that you've chosen to live your reality in this illusion. You know, this is how they've chosen, and you can't think that they're not having what they expected to experience. We're not saying that that can be improved, but they're just saying they have direct contact in consciousness. And of course, I think people that with dyslexia, especially, because I know about dyslexia because I'm dyslexic, so and dyspraxia and even epilepsy, they explained epilepsy, and they said that when someone is in an epilepsy, they go home. That's what they said. So they literally said they go home. You see them on this side as this form, but their consciousness is somewhere else, and then it comes back. And they said, so you don't need to worry about that. They are all linked up. They made a big point of talking about how we all are separately, because they used to say every single human's brain is different. It may seem the same, but they are all acting completely different because they all have their realities to get on with.
Yeah.
So
fascinating. And now I just thought of something, but now it's escaped my mind. You mentioned this thing, and I found the same thing, that people even sort of challenge me that, correct me if I'm wrong, this phenomenon is very neutral. So they can be very blunt to you. Like a lot of people, the things that I'm told, people say, no, they would never say that. And it's like, no, that's what they said. It's like, you know, where they would sort of talk to you like you're not really with it, and people think it's like an Easter egg hunt, like it's all glowing and loving and stuff like that. But I think correct me if I'm wrong, it's very neutral, and it's there to give you a lesson, and there's none of this, you know, I'm too sick to go to school stuff. They tell you it the way it is, right?
They're very neutral. Yeah. They used to say, they used to talk about, they talked about everything. Any question that we had for them, they'd talk about, they spoke about death a lot. They spoke about dimensions and time, but they were always very matter of fact. They laughed. They had, when Zoe was first channeling them, I get it separately now, but when she first channeled them, when they actually used to laugh, because they did laugh at us a couple of times, because she felt the energy as laughter, and she'd say they're laughing. They think that was a funny question you've just asked them. And so they had that. And the other thing I felt like that they were, they knew everything that was going to happen. They know everything's going to happen. They did actually say that there is no, they said it's all, every choice that you make within your reality has already been predetermined. It's all been covered. Everything's covered, basically. We're all covered. Because our view is completely different from their view of how they see us. And you always used to talk about animals, fossils, plants, stone. I mean, humans were like right at the end of the list. Considering we think we're right at the top of the list, they had us just right at the end of the list, as no different from a flower or a stone or anything like that. We are just there and a part of the illusion, if you like. So that was quite cool, if you like. It might be cool for some people, not so cool for others.
So another thing that I found is that a lot of experiencers, when they get the contact the way you did, and this happened, what, about 3 years ago?
It happened on October 2017. Yes, and yeah, 3 years ago now. Yeah.
Okay. And what I found that a lot of people, and correct me if it changed for you, but even though you may have done some art, as soon as you got the message, you suddenly had to start drawing. So you started compulsively sort of getting the messages and drawing them down. Is that what happened?
Yeah, because as I was, for the first 3 months, I was just in permanent state of shock, because every day we had a constant contact with them every day.
Yeah.
And it was backwards and forwards questions. They would ask us questions. What do you humans think happens if you can only love each other? I remember that was a question. And then they would go, and then they would come back, and it was full on for 3 months, literally nearly 24 hours. It was full on. And then it started to back off a little bit. And so, sorry, what did you just ask me?
It was about the compulsive art thing where you start.
Oh yeah, I think it was the fact that they were telling me so much information that it was almost like an information overload. And I was writing everything down, even though I'm dyslexic, but I still couldn't really take it in because it was all so new to me.
Yeah.
So I started to draw because with dyslexia, when about 2 years before the beings turned up, Zoe had started a Dyslexic for the Wise charity, and we had done a talk, and we had just sort of asked people that could write to take notes in pictures, because that's how a dyslexic mind works.
Yeah.
And we used to do a picture board. And so when the beings came straight away, I just straight away saw when they would give messages, as I was taking it in, they'd also have a picture. It was like a movie going through my mind. And it was also an explanation, and then the movie. And then I would think, how can I put that into a picture then? Because I need to understand that. And then it would just come, the pictures, and it was intense. One of those pictures could take me 8 hours to do, just filling in all the tiny little dots, just in different colors. But the drive to do it, the feeling was immense. And then once it was done, I could get on to the next one, and the next one would come straight away. So yeah, it was pretty. And they did say that, because they did say that everything is consciousness.
Yeah. Nothing
but consciousness. That's all there is, and we are within that. And they said that with artists, that, you know, because they said you'll start to see changing. When they told me 3 years ago that they were coming to make this shift, and they were going to be visiting other humans, that's what they said. After 3 months, they're going to go and visit loads of other humans. So I knew they would be telling them the same things they were telling us. Yeah. So I knew within, I think it was in 24 hours, I was seeing like things on the internet straight away, and I was going, oh wow, they really work fast. And then but they explained how that they communicate to different people. Some people they communicate in dreams. They said some people they communicate in daydreams, in a thought. They said some people, you know, like Zoe sees them in different forms, or they might see a light, or they might see an orb. They are all of those. Every single thing that you can imagine that you see, that is them. Because they said they appear to so many people in so many different forms. But it is, bottom line, coming from one source. Right. And it's coming from that, within that consciousness.
Had you done any reading? Because as I'm pointing out, the message, that the material you're getting is pretty much in line with sort of the latest sort of thinking about consciousness and stuff. Had you done any work on like consciousness and UFOs and thinking about this kind of stuff before this event?
No, I'm a hairdresser. No. I mean, when they started using these words, I was talking to people normally about just normal things and weather, fashion, whatever. And then the next day I started telling people we live in a multi-dimensional universe, you know, and we're all consciousness, and there's aliens, and we see them in different, you know. I literally went in 24 hours from thinking that way to having the whole lot turned and put that way. But it was I think it was done purposely, and it was intense, and it was done intensely. So I had no time to really take it in. It was like bang, information, every day, every day, every day, every day, every day. It was quite amazing. And looking back on it now, it was absolutely amazing. And we involved a lot of people, yeah, but yeah.
Wow.
I can't remember what you said, you know me. I go into a big old talk. I'm trying to keep it short.
Yeah. Well, you have a lot of information, and I think it's some of the most valuable information. So let's start going through your
Okay.
photographs. Explain this CHON thing and why these particular chemicals.
Right,
What's
so
that all about?
when the three beings first came, we used to call them the three beings.
Yeah.
We couldn't call them anything else, but the immensity of them, that we knew that they felt of everything, and I can't explain that, but they one day they said, you know, everything's made from carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen, including us, including other beings, they said. So I thought that was quite a big one. They you know, in a physical form, if you see a physical form and it's an alien, they are going to be made of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen. They said humans, stones, they went through the whole lot, fossils anyway. They called themselves Tron. So instead of calling them the three beings, we called them Tron. I'd say, has Tron been around? I sometimes used to call them the three beings, and she would say the same, and they would call themselves the Tron. So they started to, when they wanted to communicate to us, they would just say Tron says X, Y, and Z, instead of saying whatever they were going to say, in the oneness or the three bit. They didn't call themselves anything. I mean, we could have called them Millie, Miney, Mo.
Yeah,
they wouldn't have, you know, they wouldn't have cared really. The rest of it is this is when they had said to us one day that all your choices are already predetermined, which was a massive one for me, because then I had to really sit and think about that. So every angle that you live your reality has been covered, basically. So I immediately said to my friend, to me, that means you don't have any blame for anything. You just have to literally wake up in the morning and see what you experience for the day. Because there's nothing you can do about it. It's all predetermined. It's all been that's why because they did know, they gave proof to me a couple of occasions where I knew that they let me know that what was going to happen that day. And it's not until after the day that I thought, wow, my gosh, that means you know what's going to happen to us before it happens to us. So yeah, so this was really just to say, from birth, you go on a journey. You are on this journey to experience what you're going to experience, because they said it's all just to experience. That's it, period.
Now, some people will bring up free will. Did you ask them about the idea of free will?
Well, you get choices within the contract.
Okay.
So it's not set. That's why if you look here, you come to a junction, you can always do a left or a right.
Okay.
That's why I drew it, because you can do a left or a right. You don't have to go in this straight line. But there's no right or wrong choices. There is, because it's all been predetermined before we got here. So it's like, you know, they're sort of I used to feel like they were kind of juggling us a little bit like that. Like, all right, yeah, go left a bit, you know. And another thing they said that I thought was weird, they made a point of saying that, and it brought that old saying, if you don't hear, you feel. Because as soon as they said it, that's exactly the saying I remember, because I'm thinking, oh, those old sayings must have meant something from all those wives' sayings that we think, oh, what a load of rubbish. They actually had some sort of meaning to them, because they would have all come from thought eventually anyway, from consciousness. Wow. But yeah, they said that if you're literally going down the wrong road, they can stop you, but they can't sort of jump out in the middle of the road like an ape. I suppose sometimes they do. I mean, sometimes they do that to people, but to others, it will be much more subtler. But they will they can, if you get an illness, say for a little bit of time, or, you know, you've not too well and you've hurt your leg or something, you can't walk, there'll be a reason for that. There'll be a reason for you to be able to sit at home. It's like this, oh, right, you've got this picture. This is a multiverse. This is like constant, forever multiverse, because they said that while we see this one person, whichever one person you want to make it out to be, it doesn't matter which one, you are in consciousness, you're in many other dimensions at the same time. So what you might not think you've done it here, you could be doing somewhere else. So that was sort of to put that together.
And that is kind of the latest thinking that people are looking at this. That's why I think your stuff is so important. Like you're almost like on the leading edge, and I think it's valuable material. What is this here?
Okay, so they spoke about numbers one day. They asked us if we knew that that all numbers after 0, 1 were just separated, and we had separated them. There's no need to separate them. That all numbers can be found within the energy of 0, 1. And I didn't really go back into it apart from that. I thought it was interesting because of the binary code, because I think people are using binary code, but basically they were saying after 0, 1, it doesn't need to happen because we are separating it. So I don't know, because I'm not a mathematician and I'm certainly not anything like that. But somebody that is in that field at some point, we won't use numbers in the future. I feel that what we will do in the future is go back to how we used to be able to harness all the elements when we were building pyramids. I mean, we're still building pyramids now in some dimension because we're still there. There is no time. It's just completely pockets. So in some form, we're still there building these pyramids. And what I feel is coming from what they said, what's going to come is that we will go back to that time where we knew how to use the stones and the elements for everything. So I think when that period comes, then I don't think we'll be using numbers and in the same way to work out things. Once we realize there is only consciousness, then these sort of things won't really equate too much, because there is only consciousness, and therefore this is the birth.
This is the what?
This to me is, when I drew this, was when they were talking to us about how all energy wants to experience this illusion. And from when a baby has been conceived, once it's in the womb, it's conscious. And they said to us that, now people might not want to hear this, but I'm going to say it anyway, because this is what they said. They said that a energy, once it's formed into a child, that contract starts from then, and that energy will choose what it wants to experience from that point. And they said if a mother loses a child, they said it's never to do with the mother. It's always to do with the energy of the baby that has decided that it might only want to experience the womb, and that might be the only thing it wants to experience. And they made a big point about that. And they said that while everything is connected, everything is, and they just made this, I felt this immense energy, and they were almost like all these energies wanted to come and experience the human form. But the problem was they didn't want to experience it as it is now currently, because the being said, all beings, not just humans, have had enough of it as it's been. It's been rotating round, rejuvenating, and them as well as us has had enough of current realities. That's when they said the reality is shifting. We're going to have a shift of reality, and it's starting, it's been starting for a long time, but they told me in 2017 that they were up gearing that now. So yeah, this is really to do with the consciousness, the fact that everything is consciousness and everything is down to that individual's person's contract to experience. But the problem we have is that we have a slight dim view on death. So whereas though the being said once an energy has passed, it can be reborn straight away if it chooses to. They said within a split second. Because time as we see it, and time, they don't see time as we see time. We see time very formatted as it comes and goes. They said they don't, the energy of time, they don't see it within the oneness of consciousness. It's not there. So they said, I think, what did they say? They said I wrote it down. They said there's a chain for when you pass. I think it's you rest, renew, reconnect.
Wow.
There's no death in there.
Wow.
Yeah, this is when they said that messages come through absolutely everywhere, that anywhere and everywhere, your animals, music, as you interact with another energy within your contract, there will always be a lesson of somewhere. Either you'll be getting the lesson or you'll be teaching. It's all about growth. So, and we have this sort of antennae, if you like, that picks up everything.
around. Yeah.
And I'd seen something on the telly, and it just caught that picture just caught my attention, and it just seemed to, when I was drawing this picture, that symbol just kept popping into my mind constantly. So I had to go and I thought, I wonder if that is connected or something on telly anyway. And I saw that somebody had already called it the receiver. And I can't remember what it was. It could have been in Tesla time, a long time ago. I don't know. But anyway, it reacted because the beings talk to everybody.
Yeah.
Within this illusion, they're tapping in with us. They're constantly not whispering, but telling us, information for us to evolve and to carry on going. So that's what this is.
Yeah, that's the same sort of concept, that the body is just a receiver. It's picking up all sorts of material. Some you realize, some you don't realize, and
I think more people,
antenna. Yeah.
I think that coincidences and things like that, people say, what's a coincidence? No, it's not a coincidence. It's something else. But lots of people now are waking up to this, and they're seeing this. It's quite amazing to see how quickly people are on board. I mean, not people that I know, people that I'm seeing. So yeah, anyway, again, it says Chom because I know it's coming from the beings.
Yeah.
I know that people won't want to hear that, but that's really score as far as they told me. Everything, everybody, everything in your illusion is coming from them.
Well, this one here.
Yeah, again, this is when they said that at the beginning, I couldn't call them aliens, although that's really what they were shown to be. I didn't know what to call them, and they seemed to be very godly to me because they were so nice is the only way to describe it. So not caring, I can't explain, but they had a genuine interest in humans and what we're doing and where we're going and how to explain to us what we had forgotten. And this was just like they said that, that each, like Zoe is well, she's not, she's a black lady, but I don't know what her actual ins and outs of her. I know she got part Tibetan, a little bit Jamaican, whatever. But anyway, we asked them why have you got different color people? Because obviously we're different colors, so why have you got that? And first of all, I said, is it something to do with the melanoma? And they literally they was like, no, it's not. And they said, you have different races for different experiences. For every lifetime you come, every time you want to experience something, you come back. And then why would you want to be the same color each time? You wouldn't. What's the point of it? So they literally said, every time you go back to experience something, you choose what you want to experience, and that might be an Eskimo, or it might be someone in the Middle East, or you don't know what it is. It's so this was really to experience that. I mean, you've got a mother's baby belly, and you've got all the different. Got an Eskimo, someone up the top watching television. I remember when it was coming, it's coming to me, and I'm drawing it as quickly as I can get it down, and I'm thinking, yeah, that sort of explains it. I'll be able to remember that. Yeah, that's fine. So that's what that was about.
Yeah, again, this sort of links up to what I was sort of told. It's sort of like you don't get to be the rich white guy every time. I mean, like any other experiences, you've done that already. You don't need to come back and do that again.
But they said it more cheerfully, because they were saying, why would you want to do that? Why would you want to experience it like that? Why would you want to do that? And they said, this is I asked them, do we come back and have the same energies on each reincarnation, if you like?
Yeah.
And they said some the same, some new. The same. They go, it all depends on what experience. I asked them, do we come to this dimension or do we go to other dimensions? And they said the same thing. They goes, it all depends on what that energy wants to experience.
Wow. Explain this.
This is when they said, this is when we had a little meeting, we had a group meeting, because it was just getting so wild. I was telling so many people, and people wanted to come and talk to the beings. People came round. I had about 6 people come round. And Zoe was there, and the beings said they'd come, because she did ask them. She wouldn't just presume that they were going to come. So she asked, and they said, yeah, they were going to come. So that was good. And then one of the questions was asked by a friend of mine, and he asked, is the earth round or flat?
Oh, yeah.
And I remember thinking, that's such a good question. I didn't ask them that. And but they said they laughed. That's the time when they laughed, because she said they're laughing. They've got an energy of laughter now. And she said, no, they said the earth isn't round or flat. They said the earth has no shape. It's an illusion. If you look up, it will keep going. And they said, if you look down, it will keep going.
Yeah.
That's what they said. So that's my picture, trying to sort of go, look up, look like. Yeah, because of my dyslexia, a lot of it is the story of what was said in literally in a picture. So I was trying to, look up, look to the side.
And that's the thing I think you can sort of confirm to me, is that when the message comes to you, it's not like they're holding up a sign that says, writing on it that the world has no shape. It's like images. If it's right brained, like dreams, it's coming in images, and you're just seeing the images. It's not like they're holding up a sign and saying there's oneness and all this kind of stuff. You're getting it through images, and you're recreating it. And that's why I think it's so important, is that with this dyslexia thing, that it's coming in images, and that's the way the message comes to me as well.
Yeah, well, a lot of images, because where they don't have a separation of words and numbers and things like that. They don't use words. I don't think they even use words.
Yeah.
I think it's more telepathic, definitely, because it's in with the consciousness. So because when they come to me, I get words now. I have to go over it and double check it's what they said, but I have that thing that vibrates, which is my sort of groundedness, I suppose, that makes me think, yeah, I know they're here now. All right, this is when they were just saying that you can't judge anybody. They basically said, I've got someone in there smoking and someone in there drinking and someone in here shooting a bullet. Because they basically were saying that each person that comes to experience in this illusion, you can't judge them, because everybody's, they knew I smoked. They said, you smoke, Zoe doesn't, you drink, Annette doesn't. It was sort of like everybody does their own thing, and that's okay. And you can't, who are you to sort of put that your view onto others? The bottom line is, at the beginning, this was early days when they first came. Later on, they started to really enforce how they speak to people. So once I realized that they're coming in and speaking to people, then I could relax and think, well, I can't judge someone because I actually know that you're speaking to them. And you'll say, well, you're speaking to me. So I can't actually say anything. I just have to just put my head down. And at first I thought that was really wrong, because I thought, no, that's not right. It can't feel right. It can't feel right. But then the trust comes in. You have to trust. And I do trust what these beings, as much as we've got this situation going at the moment, there is reason for it. There's a lot of reasoning behind it, because we have to get from A to a shift to B. So yeah, this is basically, don't judge anybody. And that the other thing is, everything comes from self, because self is connected to consciousness.
Okay.
So that's got like your little self ringing up your brain, telling you what to do, but really the thoughts coming from consciousness. So
wow, your stuff is just so on the mark to me. It's like I'm very. Do you feel honored to be in the middle of this thing, that they're talking to you?
nothing's happened. I feel honored, but I know that they are talking to so many other people as well. So I feel I'm still a bit speechless by it. I'm not going to lie. I'm still a bit like, wow. But at the moment, I haven't got the people around me to be able to speak the way I want to speak. So I don't talk about it so much now.
Yeah.
Because
it's almost like when you look around the people around you and you sort of realize, like, wow, they have sort of like no clue, whatever you want to call it. They really don't know, that you sort of feel like, wow, I've sort of got
that's
some
all
answers.
right. That's what I've come to terms. That's okay, because the beings have impressed on us so many times, with Zoe, that that's okay, because maybe not in this dimension, but maybe in another dimension they're Wonder Woman or Superman. So it might not be quite this dimension that I'm seeing this 3D of them, but in some other dimension, they could well be doing something completely different. So I don't see it like that no more. I'm much more relaxed. This one was quite a good one, because the beings spoke about rainwater as being very healing for humans.
I remember that, yeah.
And they said, and we questioned it, because they said, I remember one night, I was talking to Zoe on the phone, and she said, oh, the beings have just turned up, and they've got something to say. And they said, does humans know that rainwater is the best for you to drink? And I literally went, hang on a minute. And I think back of it now. I was like, hang on, what about all the air pollution and everything like that? What about all the airplanes and all the crap from the satellites and everything like that? And they said, forget all that. And they said, because it's each person, I know now what they were explaining. At the time they said, forget it. They just told us to forget it. But then later on, they explained about the reality, about each person's in their own reality, and it might affect them, but it might not affect you here. But, you know, if they're going to be affected, they'll be affected. It might not necessarily affect you. But they said the elements that are in rainwater cannot be tampered with, if you like.
Okay.
And then I remember they said it. We questioned it, and then I said, do we have to filter it? And they said, you don't have to do it. If you want to filter it, you can filter it. They went, you don't have to filter it, it's your choice. And then in the evening, that evening, when I was sort of thinking about it, and I thought, let me put this in the picture. As it came to mind again, and the words came back to mind, because they always used to say, what they do with humans is they drip feed us.
Yeah.
And it's like drip, drip, and they go over it and go over it and go over it and go over it until it becomes concreted, and then we can move to the next subject, and then they drip feed that and do that, and that's how it is. And it's in consciousness everywhere, so it's like a massive pond, and they're throwing the pebbles in, and they're just rippling out through everybody. But within this, they gave me this image, and it was a little robin at the end of my garden drinking some drink, and they said, he doesn't fall over dead, does he? And they literally had this robin go and they went, that never happens. They said, have you seen any animal that's drunk water that's fallen over and died from drinking the water, from rainwater specifically?
Yeah, yeah.
So this picture here, they also went on to say that, excuse me, that they said if you have cataracts and you put rainwater in your eyes and eat vitamin A, preferably from seaweed, but vitamin A, that will heal cataracts. And that's going to be something that's going to be remembered in the future. Oh,
I got a cataract. I'm going to try that.
Yeah, just go outside and put some rainwater in, and drink a little. This is when they were talking about the sun and the moon. So they were trying to explain. They said, when they were talking to us one day, they said you see the sun and the moon in these specific shape. Yeah. But they have no shape really. They're just energy and frequency that you perceive as shape and heat. Yeah. And they said, and it doesn't go around the world like you think they does. They said what it does do is it's out of people's reality and dimensions. So, you know, where it's hot one side, it's cold the other side, that it's gone anywhere. And it's just that your illusion of it as it is as it is in this shape. But they said, really, it has no shape. And it just sails in and out of realities in consciousness. So this was sort of like to bend light, really. I was sort of explaining the bending of what we see as light.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. So this is quite recent, actually, because this is beginning of this year. And the beings were showing me, that is my right hand, because I'm left-handed. Okay. And that impression is what I saw. So I had my hand down, and the beings were going over how dimensions work, multi-dimensions work, and the fact that there is no time, but humans perceive time as a certain way, when we should really see it as. And then I looked down, and there was like, there wasn't, because I could see there wasn't, but in thought they were like bubbled, like these round circles of sort of. And they said time should be seen more like this. And it was literally, I could see it on my hand, and I literally drew my hand. I put my hand onto the paper, drew my hand, and drew what I saw at that moment. Wow. And that's what I saw. And that's the only way I could just draw it onto paper, what I was being shown in that moment. Because they were saying their time does not go from, like, yes, there is no yesterday as such. The time doesn't go in the movement that we think it goes in. They said it's happening all now. Everything's happening now. So they said once time is seen differently as from what it's seen now, then, you know, the progress of healing the oneness is what they kept saying will go up a notch, which is fantastic, because I know that it's going to happen within very soon, because lots of people are talking about consciousness now. I see it and hear it everywhere. So yeah.
I think that's where I think you're ahead of the mark. And another point to make here is that they're using what I find that you're describing as well is they're using these sort of analogies to teach you what reality is, that you really can't see reality. So they're saying it's sort of like this, and they're trying to get it through your mind with these images, because
Yeah,
otherwise you're never going to pick it up.
no, no. And it's repeated. And they did say that they repeat things that you don't get, they will repeat.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and it's just repeated every now and then.
Fascinating.
Yeah, this is to do with deja vu and the pineal gland, because they said that the pineal gland is where consciousness dwells. So we can tap it. Every single person is able to tap into consciousness because we are consciousness. But tap in. You've got the little beings up here on the left-hand side, because I used to put them in all my pictures because it was so intense.
Oh yeah. Okay, over here.
The little beings there on the left.
Yeah.
And so the deja vu, they said, is that moment of, there's other images on here. It says imagination, doubt, ego, all these labels, because they said you've labeled them and separated them all. And they said, when really there is only oneness.
Yeah.
and you need to lose the labels, basically. So they all come in. They said you need to send, I remember them one day saying, you need to send dark love. And that was the message. And I went, what do you mean? And they went, you need to see dark and light as the same and stop separating it. Because they said, like yin and yang, one cannot be without the other. In any contract, you have to have two people within that contract, and one you might class as dark and the other one you might class as light. But either way, they're both from source. They're both within contract, acting out this, whatever they're doing, be it in a relationship or, deja vu, they said, is that moment where all humans have the ability to see the past, present and future, because there is no past, present and future, but are able to see the multi-dimensions, if you like, in that moment. And it can freak you out a little bit because you think, oh, I've done this, I know this. And they said that is exactly what happens. That is it. It's like a crossover of dimensions, but this time, instead of not remembering it, you have a flash of remembering it.
Wow.
So I called it the divine deja vu because it's multi-universal. So
wow, just I'm so honored to be tapped into this, because I think they're giving you reality. They're describing how I think it actually works.
right, so this is when they were talking, the top of this got cropped off and I realized afterwards, but what it is a big watering can.
Okay.
And this was symboling sort of what you want, flying saucers, whatever people's reality are, but whatever it is, it's above us at the moment. And then they used to talk to us. These are flowers with little babies in them, little human babies, because they used to think they used to think humans were part of nature. They didn't refer to us as we think we are, like this super being. They just used to see us as a flower, or that's something that needs to be nurtured and looked after. And it like a flower garden, it goes off site sometimes. You have to come back and do a bit of weeding and sorting it all out because it's gone off. And they constantly were talking about the cycles in nature, and they said that human life is no different than any cycle of a flower. You pick a flower. That's when they first came. They said, what do you think happens when humans pick a flower? And we said, it dies, compost. And they said, no, nothing dies. Energy can't die. It can only change form. Everything can only change form. So yeah, that was really, and then obviously they're giving us because it's an illusion and we are in with these elements, and I've had this contact with these beings that I now believe, not for everybody, but everything is created by them, and we are living this illusion that is created by them and us. Yeah. They actually said that humans were all born at the same time. We have no age and we were all born at the same time. Yeah. So it's a constant, it's really not how we think it is. And that is because we've come so far off the path. Yeah. That they're back now to put us back on the path. Wow. This is, again, talking about death. They spent like nearly a year speaking about death. Wow. Nearly every other day they spoke about death until we were immune to the word death, because they just knew that they weren't talking, there was no death. Wow. So this is it. This is the run. You go through, you go to, you might go on a plane, you might be whatever, you live your life, you go through, then you pass, then you have this other journey. And we don't know where that is. That's all got its 100 of rows. They've got rows. There's so many different dimensions that you can go to that, or you could start back at the same point in this dimension. It's completely down to what the energy wants to experience within growth. So yeah, that was me saying life, death, death, life, best friends forever. So
fascinating. This one I like. We talked about this before. Go over this one again.
Because of music, because of frequency, because of the way because we're constantly in this cycle of motion, they are steering us where we're going. And they influence us through music, because this is what, and I found this so cool, because they said this one night, they were talking about how musicians and get inspiration, and artists, or even movie writers, poets, whatever, and they sort of said, you think it's a new idea, don't you? They said, but it's not a new idea, because you're already doing it in another dimension. What you're doing is connecting in consciousness and bringing that thought from that dimension where you are doing it, or it's already completed, into this dimension now where you're now about to do it. And that comes from them as well, because they can also feed, if there's a direction that we're going in, they're going to feed. If you look now, my grandchildren, the movies that are getting created now, from when my daughter, who's 28, was younger, when Jamie was younger, I wouldn't even put the telly on cartoons. They were so violent. Everything was violent, death, stab, 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 walking around, big brains exploding. Now, they're much subtler, the movies. They're to do with reincarnation, to do with soul. There's so much stuff about aliens. So this one day, while I was drawing this, I had music on, and I was just in sort of music. And I just had this overwhelming, because they told me, and Zoe, that they experience few through humans. They can experience our emotions. They can tap into our emotions and experience emotion through us, what we're doing. And I was playing music that day and dancing around the house. And I just thought, and the thought came to me, and I also, not only with the thought of this, like, they like music, they're kind of getting, so if we're having a good time, they're experiencing that good time we're having with the music and that vibration of that energy. But yeah, it's all coming from, all these fantastic poets and writers and inspiration music writers. There you go, there's your connection. It's coming up from beings, up and down, multiverse, zigzagging across. And the other thing is, if one person gets an idea, it's not just one person will get an idea, because we don't know actually how many people are experiencing this illusion. We think we've got a number for it, but the beings have always said, you think you know how many people are experiencing this, but you have no idea how many people are experiencing these illusions. Someone's come up with a number, X bar 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 amount of humans living on Earth. But the beings threw that completely out the window, and they went, you have no idea how many people are experiencing this illusion. You think you do. So, these ideas that people are having, they're going to be coming up everywhere. It's not one person that's going to be having it. It's all people are going to be having that. So while the music seems to flow at the same time, it shifts at the same time. It's amazing.
Wow. Yeah, I wrote a book called Tuned In, and I wrote a book called Inspired. And what you just described is basically what I got that I put in the book. So that's why I say you're right on the mark in terms of the ideas that you're being given, in terms of what I've written up.
This is a dream I had actually on the 10th of January. And
this year?
10th of January, 2018.
Okay.
And this was, I don't really dream that much, but this was quite an intense dream. And I woke up and I was in light, like a tube of light, a massive tube of light. And that's what I was trying to explain. And I remember looking down, and I could see this sort of wobbly shape that I could make out. And I thought, that's Earth, that's meant to be Earth. And then everybody on Earth was just holding hands and going around holding hands. And it was such a lovely dream. I woke up from the dream thinking, they're here, they're here, they're here, they're in energy, they're in our light, they're everywhere. They've never gone anywhere, but they've taken a back seat, and now they're taking a forward seat. They're in, we've gone up a gear. And that was a dream which I drew, which I was trying to get light, but it's very hard to draw light with pencils.
Yeah.
Okay, that's quite explanatory. Reality is showing today, please bring your own colour. So this is quite when the beings, So we are all literally in our own reality. And within that, we are linked like chains, they said, like chains of a necklace. You're all linked like a massive chain necklace, but there are only layers on layers of consciousness. So we think we're experiencing this realness, but we are all experiencing our realities separately. But sometimes they cross over because they're like ours. Like your reality's in Canada, mine's in the UK, and we've come together and we've crossed over because we're talking about this. And that's what they were explaining. So, and you bring your own color to that. You know, some people don't want to know anything about consciousness or anything about other beings, and some people do, and both is okay.
Yeah.
And when it's all right. So that was it, really. And this was again about personal perception. So it might be all cloudy to someone. There's no fruit growing out there, but inside this bubble where this person's about to dive into their reality, it's all roses and sunshine, because you bring your own perspective. So you've all got our own perspective of what's going on in this illusion and our realities. So that was how that's how I thought I could explain that. So it's sort of meant to be a ball, and in here it's all flowers and, you know, sunshine, and going out here it's a bit more barren. Okay, this is probably one of the first ones I ever drew. This is when the beings had said that about the contracts, when they were explaining contracts, and they were saying about each contract which will be different from the one before. But I remember them saying, because I've wrote up here, it was all souls to come all at one time, because the immensity of the energy that I felt while I was talking to the beings and how they were portraying it in my thoughts, and they broke it down and they sort of said that energy is all one. Yeah. So there is no separation, although you think it's a separation in this illusion, there is no separation. On each energy, which is this cluster of energies up here, you choose what you want to experience, and then you're born into your parents, which have already, you've chosen them, they've chosen you, it's already pre-booked, pre-dealed. But then as you're coming down, we've got like a sort of birthing canal, if you like. Yeah. You can go to the past, present, future. I've put the Atlantis you can go to Egypt. You can be born when you want, really. It's up to you what you want to experience as that energy at that time. So, and I sort of put a vacuum in here, a vacuum of time, and some, it was just all coming to me at once. And they'd already explained that Earth is like a theme park. And they said some rides are frightening and some are chilled out. And some people go to the theme park and walk from one side to the other and don't want to go on any rides. And they said, and that's fine as well. They went, it's down. They made a big point of saying it's an experience. Yeah. And they were going, when do humans, you've got to understand it's an experience. And then there'd be another experience. But yeah, so that was probably one of the first ones I ever drew, actually. It took me a whole day to do that.
Did this rattle your worldview in terms of like soul contracts and consciousness? And did it sort of shock you that you sort of were giving all these new concepts that you'd never thought about?
Yeah, well, it was a shock in a good way, because I thought I'd had a really not very great life. So I was very ill. I had had numerous spinal surgeries when I was younger. I suffered pain for about 15 years every single day until I had an operation rectified. Wow. So I had to question that and say, well, you're telling me that I wanted to experience I was in a wheelchair basically for about nearly 5 years. Wow. Are you telling me I wanted to? And they were sort of saying, well, yeah, you didn't necessarily want to experience that, but you put yourself there, if you see what I mean. And I was in a very bad relationship at the time. So this again was one of the first ones when they were talking about the contract. And they said, there's parents down there with a little baby in her tummy. Obviously the stalk, that was all connected to the baby. Yeah. They said a child chooses its parents and a parent chooses its child, and it's a contract. It's already been, we think it's all like, okay, you meet, have a baby, and and it's the time goes forward like that, and the past has gone back like that, and it's absolutely nothing like that whatsoever. It really isn't. So, but as much as it was new to me, and I'm still talking about it, and I've got all the pictures, I know that our children within a generation will just talk about, will know this, will refer, and within 2 generations, on 3 generations, you're talking about they're going to be back with the elements. There's not going to be the system that we have today. But they already told me, they said there's going to be a new reality, a choices coming to humans, one you don't have now. So, you know, they said a time full of love and sharing. So, and they told me that would happen at the end of my lifetime, and that I would see it, and it would be something for my grandchildren and their children to experience this choice. But if I die and then I choose to come back, then I will experience it myself. Because you know, you have to evolve, and you have to, for us to keep moving into this higher level of consciousness, we have to pass and come back. Because we go to other places and get a whole load of information from there, and then we bring it back to this, into this energy, and then we bring it to this now. So there was explaining that, and this is the same thing, you know, constantly they talked about the contract each lifetime. They're always different each lifetime. So yeah, in connection, this is what I said to you about the cataracts. That's meant to be an eye with a cataract in it. Rain, because they were constantly talking about rainwater as being this pure element, and that is so good for human. I drink it. If not in the summer, because I can't get it so much, but in the winter I collect rainwater, and I drink a little bit, maybe once, twice a week. It's like a detox for the body, and it is, and I splash my face in it, and if I've got any cuts, I'll splash that on it and everything.
And you're not dead.
Yeah, so this is your seaweed vitamin A. So if you can get seaweed, that's fine, but if you can't, they said it's the vitamin A that is the important part. So, but they wouldn't say go and get vitamin A. They would say eat seaweed. That's what they told us to do.
And you're healthy. You haven't died from your rainwater. So that was the message.
No, I haven't. I literally haven't. And you know what else? I sneak it into everybody that comes around. Actually, I do tell them now. I say, have some rainwater.
Well, if I'm there, I'm going to have some rainwater.
Yeah, you have some good old rainwater. So this is when the beings first came. Literally the first hour when they first turned up. I said to Zoe, ask them why they're here. Why have they come? What do they want? What are they showing up for? So we asked them that, and they said that it was time. Humans were ready, and they'd come to heal the division. And they said humans were a separated race.
Wow. And
that they were here to heal the division, and this was the picture, heal the division. And I thought, I just had this little being sitting on a, you know, stitching it all back together. And obviously your soul's reality, because at the beginning we both, Zoe and I, were saying souls, but then as we evolved and they kept talking about energies, we changed the word to energy. Okay. Because you know, your energy, you're part of the energy. Because when it was a soul, it seemed to make it separated somehow.
Yeah, it's sort of like a noun. What I was sort of told was that everything's like a verb. Everything's moving. There is no objects. There is no noun.
Stillness. Yeah. So this is it. This is a picture of that. Okay. This came beginning of this year. This is a 2000. That was really intense as well. So it was where so here you've got someone writing to the left, and then you've got someone playing music. You've got someone dreaming, and you've got a little artist board here. Yeah. And then I've got people dancing, and there's music all around, and it's all connected. Every single person's connected to each other. You've got beings in there that are starting to walk with humans, because they said they're going to start to walk around with humans in these dimensions that are coming. They're going to be here. Wow. And they're inspiring for this change. So they're giving little ideas everywhere, constantly dropping little ideas.
Wow. Fascinating.
This was quite an early one as well. This is when they first started to talk to us about multi-dimensions, when they first tried to explain to us about time. And the first conversation that I had with them about time was, I asked them about what happened in Atlantis, and was Atlantis real? And they said to me that Atlantis hadn't gone anywhere, and that if I wanted to visit it when I passed, I could. It's my choice. And they said it's still happening. So everything is happening in the now. So I've just done an example of sort of pockets here. The actual top pocket at the top left, it's sort of these dimensions here. I weren't really sure what I was seeing when I was writing this, but this one down here, I felt was a future dimension, because of the fact that I just had little pyramids, and I just thought there's not going to be travel like we have travel now. There's not going to be the communication. There's not going to be the money. There's not going to be the medicine. It's going to be completely different. I think people will stay where they are. I think people won't move around so much. People will learn to love where they are.
Okay.
But if the circumstances are changed around us, and we were working with elements like we will do in the future, we won't get ill. People won't get ill because they won't have stress. They won't have anger because they won't have wars, because there'll be nothing belongs to us. So the realization of consciousness will take an effect. And the rest of them are just pockets. I've got past with dinosaurs, because we've all experienced dinosaurs at some point. It just, and then we've got current, I've put www.com. There, remember, this was like in 2017, before the consciousness loving hitness hit us. So at that point, everybody's shooting each other still. If I did a picture now, I would probably do a completely different. Maybe this one up here with love and flowers would be the one for now, but their point was everything's happening now. It's like a library in consciousness. It's like a theme park. It's happening now, and everything's connected. So I tried to get that into a picture.
Exactly what I was told. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is the illusion again, where it's like a TV. I put a little picture down the bottom of someone watching the television, because it's like we're watching telly, but really we're all in that film. It's just been played out in different scenes in our individual homes. But this is another one where they said the earth has no shape. Yeah. It could be any shape you want it to be, because it has no shape. It's the shape that that person needs it to be within their reality. So I don't know what the future holds for flat earthers, because I'm not a flat earther, I'm not a round earther, I'm just neutral earther in the middle. And now I know there's no shape to it, so I realize it's nothing to do with that at all. It's down to the different realities and where we're heading with this oneness and getting rid of the separation and lots of love coming and everything's coming through. I don't know if we're going to have a round earth in the future, or a flat earth, or maybe they'll realize the power of consciousness, and they'll realize that it has no shape at all. It's a distorted shape to whatever the person needs in that illusion. So who knows? Yeah,
it's our perception. That's the idea that a lot of people talk about. There's really no red color. There's no this, that. It comes in and you perceive it.
That's right.
And build it in your consciousness.
Yeah. Again, this is like, because they spoke about elements a lot, and they spoke about atom, and they said that they are atom, and that atom is within all humans. It's just that we've forgotten. So I've got the atom there, and then the human form, and then the earth having no sort of shape behind. But humans are constantly changing their form. That came in as well. That we have this shape now, but we might not look like this in a period of time.
Yeah. That goes back to the thing about the nouns, that we want to make things as unchangeable things, whereas everything is like a verb. It's not a noun, it's a verb. It's growing, it's changing all the time.
Yeah, they made big point about the atom. This is oxytocin, which is quite what we're experiencing now. So it's just, I have a different way of looking at it. So this is oxytocin. So the beings came in one day and they said that by creating more oxytocin in the body, the human body, humans will start to experience a feeling of love. Now, I didn't know what oxytocin was, nor did Zoe. In fact, when we were talking, when we put the phone, I said, "What are they talking about? Oxygen?" I said, have they said it wrong? Have you heard it wrong? And she went, "No, I haven't." She said oxytocin. They said, "Go and look it up." So we went and looked it up, and we realized it was a love hormone. So down here at the bottom is actually what it looks like. That is the love hormone, the actual hormone, because I drew it. And this is what it looks like when it's grafted. And it just reminded me of the bee, of the hexagon of the honeybee. And it's the same shape as the honeybee. And I remember thinking, now that is really weird, because I do know ancient people used to have a thing about bees. So I also know because the beings said they've been coming for billions of years in and out of human realities, all through different, times. So all through different times, they would have been here giving out the information. So things that we lost, like the things that the ancient people did know and how they worked with elements and bees and nature and everything, we were going to remember. But this is it. This is the oxytocin, the love hormone. The thing that made me really click on this is that they really put it to me that humans their DNA is going to be like, tampered with. And that I found that really interesting because I could almost feel that I don't know how it works. I can't tell you how it works. I can't tell you if we all get put onto a spaceship and with DNA and I don't know how that part works. I don't know, because I know now that it's bigger than that. It's consciousness. So it's bigger than anything that I could possibly try and imagine how it works. But we are evolving DNA wise. Our DNA is evolving, and they said, like, sometimes even a baby being born right now is going to be like a superhuman compared to what we are, how we understand consciousness and things like that.
Wow.
So the DNA is constantly being updated, if you like. This is when they said to me about beautiful light, beautiful dark, day and night. And when they said to me, does humans know that there is no night and there is no dark? I remember them saying that, and I was like, what are you? Didn't know what they were talking about. Oh, what are they talking about? And so we had this long conversation, and they were saying, it's an illusion. It's your perception of dark. There is no dark, like there is no light. It's all within that illusion of reality. All there is energy and consciousness. So that's it. And I was just like that with the pen, like dark, 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 dark.
Wow. It's such advanced ideas. I think that's.
I know it will come to pass, though. That's what I mean. Probably when I'm dead, but it will come to pass, because I try and see it in my children, because they did say your grandchildren. So every now and then I'm trying to sort of see what do you think about dark then? And what are you talking about, Nana? So I thought, well, not me yet then.
Oh, and that's the slides I've got. So have you got a website, or do you work off of Facebook? Because I'd like to promote your material as much
I'm
as
still
I
on Facebook, Grant. Because of my dyslexia and because I needed some time out, because as you know, you interviewed me.
Yeah.
You know, last time you interviewed me, I was a bit more like that. That's because I was still in it. I was still in that energy. My energy's changed now. I am the messages. I know the messages inside out. And when they communicate still in a way that I have something on my shoulder, and I don't really know what it is, but when they're around, it still vibrates, and it gives me that awareness with whatever they're going to say. I mean, a lot of what they said to do with is, you know, we've got this big change shift going on. So there are more. You're trying to load the other ones, because there are some more I sent, but I don't know if you've had time to load them.
didn't load. No, I didn't load them. I just, hang on. No, that's all I have.
Okay, so it's the first page. I know there's a few more. I sent about 30 altogether.
Okay, well, maybe we'll do another one, because I really appreciate your message and your material. I think you're dead on in terms of what I've heard, what I've read about other people. I think you're sort of on the leading edge of picking up. It's almost like the material sort of in the field, and you've learned to tap into this material, however you do it.
Well, they're coming in, because
Yeah.
I actually know where it's coming from. It comes from within self, but self has connected to consciousness. I mean, if you close your eyes, I mean, they actually explain death as if they said each human experiences death when they blink their eyes.
Yeah.
That's about as the different, because you blink, you're aware you're somewhere, you know. So I think that the information is getting out there. I do know that, but yeah, no, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm glad I will help you promote as much as I can, because I think your message people need to hear. So do you have, how does the contact take place now? When you want it, or do they sort of come to you when they think you need to know some more stuff? Or because you said you've sort of taken a break now, so how does this work?
It's funny, because I remember when they were here last time, and I had Zoe, because me and Zoe had sort of gone on separate ways. We needed some time out because it was very intense.
Yeah.
And so she's getting on and doing a few things, and I'm doing a few things. But I remember at the beginning it was so intense that I needed a bit of time out. So I haven't really done anything, to be honest with you, Grant. I put up messages as they come. Some mornings they come and I might wake up, because they communicate all the time, a lot in sleep, and they will do with everybody in sleep.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you can switch off to this reality and just switch into there.
Yeah.
So I wake up sometimes with very affirm messages. Literally, as soon as I wake up, it's in my face, it's in my brain, and but I haven't got a release yet. I haven't worked out how to do a release. I don't know if I should put it on YouTube, because I think do people want to listen to it? Some people want to listen to it and some people don't want to listen to it. So I'm a bit at that stage. I put up messages on my Facebook at the moment, but there's not much more going on than that. I started to look at all my notes. I've got enough to make a book, but because of my dyslexia, again, that's a bit of a hurdle for me. But at the moment, I'm just putting it on my Facebook, and we'll see what happens. I mean, if we get to do things in the future, brilliant, you know. But at the moment, I'm not. I'll just let it go as it needs to be.
Yeah. If you're going to do a book, I know with dyslexia, it's hard. I will help you do it because I think your message is important. The one thing you did mention, and I didn't know this until just a little while ago, if you follow Deepak Chopra, he's written 90 books. And he said how he writes the books is he wakes up in the morning and he stares at the ceiling for half an hour, and whatever comes into his head during that half hour, he writes it down. That's his 90 books. They said that's where it all comes from. And it's the same process you're using. And once you learn to pay attention to it, you tap into it, and then you try to write it down, because sometimes maybe it doesn't happen to you, but with me, if you don't write it down right away, it's like a dream. It sort of just disappears, and they'll come back at another time and repeat it to you, but you have to write it down when it's happening.
The things that they're doing now is they're repeating.
Yeah.
They're repeating things. So I might have not thought about anything for 6 months, and then they'll bring it up in the morning, and I'll wake up and I'll go, oh yeah, I remember that. But then a picture will come, and the picture will come, and then I can either do the picture, or sometimes I just write it on Facebook as it comes, because I need a release. I do need a release. I know that, because it comes and I just think, oh, what should I do with it? What should I do with it? All right, I'll just put it on Facebook, because that's the only release I have. Yeah. So, and also on Facebook, because I'm not really technical or anything like that, people can come and go. If they want to come and look what's being said, they can come. And if they don't have to. Yeah. It's not forced down their throats. Yeah, the message is only there for the people who need to hear it at that moment. The message isn't for everybody. I think that's what they say. The message isn't for everybody. True. So I appreciate what you're doing, and we'll put this up. I'll give you a link to it once it's up, and remind me in email which for the paintings we haven't done or drawings you haven't done, and we'll do a part 2. Okay. I really seriously think you're at almost like a postgraduate level, that you're tapped into this. And why I think it's so important is that you have your little monkey mind that goes around. The way they described it to me is wrong blocks. You've got all these wrong blocks, and you're moving all these blocks around that are wrong. And when you can get into the field, and your higher self, whoever's telling you, it comes to you, it's way more accurate material, and you just got to write it down, and you suddenly realize, oh, this block was wrong, and take this block out. And that's why I think your material is so important. It's coming from a field, and it's exactly the same sort of stuff I've gotten and other people have gotten. So you're helping to raise consciousness, and I'm honored to have known you and to have you share with me, and send me the email of which ones we've forgotten, and we'll do a part 2. Brilliant. Okay, I'll sort that out. Beautiful. Okay. See you later.